So the big news in the Premier League over the next few days is going to be the transfer situation, the transfer window closing. It closes on Monday, October the 5th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're in the final week of the window now, lads, and I wanted to focus on the transfer needs for specific teams in the Premier League. So looking at the big boys here, given their poor starts to the season, I feel like a lot of them need to do a lot of business and might start panicking in the final days of the window here. I'm going to start things off with Manchester United. I mean, all summer long, it feels longer than that, maybe even for the last year, they've been chasing Jadon Sancho. Doesn't seem like they're going to get him. And we said it on previous discussions. They probably don't need an attacking player, probably need a new winger. They need a new centre-back, left-back. I mean, Alex Teller's coming in. Ismail Sarr maybe coming in from Watford as a bit of a panic buy. He's a good player, but he's no Jadon Sancho. They've got a bit of a stopgap situation there. So firstly, when we talk about transfer needs, what do Manchester United need to do, Nick Mandola?
I wonder what the plan is there. That's what I really wish I knew. Like, what is their plan? I go back to, and he had a good game that day, if it was Mensa, but what Wan-Bissaka on the bench, trying to decide what they're doing with the midfield, whether they're shoehorning McTominay or Fred or whoever. I have a hard time telling you what I think they need to do because I don't know what the plan is. So for me, and this is a little bit of a short-circuiting thing, either Ole needs to tell us what he's doing, or maybe they need to find a guy who isn't him. So look, Sancho is, I think, an okay long-term plan that's not going to happen. Tellus does seem like the right move. I just don't know that you can trust Luke Shaw.
Agreed. Andy, you kind of concur with that with Manchester United?
Yeah, my response, I think you're spot on with what's the plan. I also think a relevant question to ask would be, is Ole actually in charge of that? Do we know who's actually in charge of that? Does he have any say in that? Does he get to give any kind of input in the players that are signed? Because the transfer dealings over the last, not just a couple of years since he's been there, but years and years going back now, essentially since Sir Alex Ferguson left, there has been no plan. It's been, okay, what's either the most expensive player we could buy or the biggest name player that the most people around the world know. And we're going to buy those players, and we're going to try to make a team out of that. It's like the Galacticos from Real Madrid, just on a slightly lesser budget, slightly lesser quality, and in a much more competitive league where you've got 4 or 5 other teams on a similar level. To where if you're not at your very, very best, you're not going to get points on the day, let alone compete for titles. And they've not truly done that since Sir Alex left.
I can see now Man United's new nickname, Not So Galacticos. I'm going to go with that in the future.
Sorry.
So Gareth Bale, Sergio Reguilon, Thiago Alcantara, those are some of the players they've gone for and haven't actually been able to get in the transfer window. So they are in that situation with Ed Woodward, the executive vice chairman, probably doing those deals. He's under a lot of pressure now, and you can see Man United fans clamoring for, can we have some kind of activity? Can we have new players coming in? But taking this full circle back to Nick's point, what's the bigger picture here? What is the point of signing a new winger just for the sake of it when you could have Jadon Sancho in 6 to 12 months' time? I mean, isn't it probably better just to wait for him? And when you could get him from Dortmund, if he is actually the player you want to build your team around. So,
especially if you're going to spend 75% of that amount on a much lesser player.
Exactly.
Again, what's the point?
Exactly. So big questions there for Man United in the final days of the window. I want to move to Arsenal. Aouar from Lyon, do they need him in central midfield? You've got Thomas Partey, they've been linked to it, but it doesn't look like Atletico Madrid are going to let him go this summer. But Aouar's a quality player. If we look at Arsenal against Liverpool, they did okay defensively at times, but when they did have the ball in possession, they were just sloppy, giving it away. Al-Neni and Xhaka, they're okay, they work hard, but they haven't got that extra quality that Arteta really wants in the heart of the midfield. So he would be a big upgrade, Nick, right, to this Arsenal midfield. And it's the kind of player that Arteta needs, but probably deserves after the good start he's had to life in charge of Arsenal.
Yeah, I worry a little bit about him in the sense that Pepe has had very good dribbling stats and creator stats coming over, and they haven't quite found a fit there. Maybe that's just a fit problem. But when I look at their team, I still have concerns about what the plan is building out of the back. I mean, we keep seeing Tierney at center back, who is an incredible fullback at Celtic. Gabriel didn't even play yesterday. Maybe I missed something. Maybe he has some sort of a knock that we don't know about. So Partey, right, that seemed like the move. That seemed like the guy for them that maybe would draw it. But when we talk about Lyon and the way that they create, and Klopp came out yesterday against an Arteta who has fooled a lot of people and basically said we knew he had to play a high line against Aubameyang. And it seems like what they took him out of the equation, it came down to Lacazette, who had some very good chances, but right, that creator. And we haven't seen the consistency out of Ceballos yet, right? On his best day, like last week, he was absolutely wonderful. Pick one or two moments from him yesterday and you're not going to find him.
Andy, what do Arsenal need to do in your opinion?
I'll be very brief with this because I think it's a pretty simple fix for Arsenal, at least if we're talking about midfielders. They need Thomas Partey or a player very, very similar to him. That is the player in the role, the position that they've been missing, not just this season and last season, but for years and years and years. They have so much attacking talent. They will never struggle to create chances, but to keep meaningful possession when not creating chances is also an important thing. And I don't think they have the midfield kind of base to be able to do that. And so they are going to shoot themselves in the foot far too many times this season because the midfield is just so imbalanced. It's a lot like the Man United midfield, actually, but it's very, very tilted towards the attacking half of the field. So get Partey, pay whatever you have to, and I promise 12 months from now, 24 months from now, it'll look like a bargain.
It'll be a party at Arsenal, right? Sorry, I couldn't help myself with that one. Talking about another team that looks a bit imbalanced, obviously Chelsea have added a lot of attacking parts, haven't they, over the summer? We all know how much money they've spent. But Thiago coming in, given the captain's armband for his Premier League debut, had a bit of a nightmare against West Brom. They somehow managed to scramble a 3-3 draw out of that. But do Chelsea need to have another centre-back? I'm looking around at their squad. Again, we've spoken about it before. They don't have that leader at the back. Maybe Thiago will be that on his first couple of outings. Doesn't seem likely. So Declan Rice has been linked time and time again. Looks like West Ham are going to want an awful lot of money for him. He's a great player. Obviously plays in holding midfield for West Ham and England, but future maybe as a centre-back at Chelsea. Nick, do you think Declan Rice is a player that Chelsea should go out and pay whatever the price is? Because it seems like they're not good enough at centre-back right now to take that next step and just to cement their place in the top four.
So, yeah, do they just want to have an absolute lockdown on hyper-aggressive players? And so that's my question with Rice. He's 21. I think he's exceptional. He's very good. We haven't seen him in a good team. He's fairly wasted where he is right now. I mean, I know West Ham had a great win this weekend, but
and for England as well. He's played for England. Let's not forget that.
Well, that's obviously correct. I mean, listen, the poor man's United States men's national team. But I wonder who's leaving. Right? There have been notes of Conte leaving, Jorginho leaving, because Kovacic, Conte, and Rice. Listen, they all have a little bit different. Kovacic is a little bit better with the ball. Conte is a little bit more hyper, but they're very, very, very similar players, I think. So what is the plan then? And again, we keep asking this, and maybe Andy's right. He said this before, maybe not even this week. Maybe it's more about personnel. Famous basketball coach here in Western New York, Reggie Witherspoon, used to say, it's about Jims and Joes, not X's and O's. And I'm wondering if that is the Premier League approach right now. Is it just get as much talent as you can and figure it out? Because even going back to Arsenal with Saka and Pepe and Nketiah and Lacazette, I'm wondering if that's the plan with Chelsea. We'll figure it out later. We've seen now Ndidi drop back to center back. You mentioned Rice potentially having that skill, Fabinho. Maybe it's just get dudes out there and figure it out.
Absolutely. And Andy, to finally wrap up on Chelsea, Rice, is that the big name they need to buy?
If he can play center back, sure. But and I'll hold my hand up and say, not watched enough of West Ham over the last year or so, because why would you? I think at this point, but to know whether that transition is going to be smooth, seamless, rough, if it should be. So I don't know. It's going to cost them a ton, and to get anybody in seems like somebody's going to have to go out now because that squad is getting pretty big.
Absolutely. It's going to be some big moves in the final days of the transfer window. So we'll have you covered at Pro Soccer Talk and NBCSports.com. All the latest transfer news, rumors, deals as they happen. There's going to be a lot of money spent in the final days of the window as Premier League teams get the man they want or panic a little bit, probably the latter. And as we look at some other teams around the league who need to do business, Fulham, West Ham, Burnley, teams who have some relegation fears, they'll be pretty busy. And there's going to be some other teams in and around that Champions League, Europa League picture who are really going to have to spend big late in the window to try and make this season a success. So very quick answer, lads. One team that needs to do a lot of business in the last days of the window. Andy, I'm going to start with you. One team.
Well, every relegation battling team always needs to do a ton of business because they're going to be battling relegation. But I'll pick one team away from there. I think Spurs need to go out and get a backup for Harry Kane. This is one of the most often and frequently and long-term injured star players in the entire world. You can bet 2 months at some point this season he will be out, and Son Heung-min already got an injury and going to miss time. He's pretty frequently injured as well, so I know Gareth Bale is still to come, but until then and beyond then even, they're 1 or 2 injuries away from being in the exact same situation they were in last season. And how did that turn out?
Nick, quickly.
So for me it's Burnley, and I think they're the big domino in the entire operation because I read today that there's serious considerations of selling James Tarkowski. And given what Sean Dyche has said, if they get rid of that guy, and I like Ben Mee a lot, then clearly there are going to be other dominoes to fall, whether those are championship dominoes or otherwise. He's done an incredible job, Sean Dyche, but I wonder at what point does the well have to run dry? So Burnley is the team I'm watching.
He might go if Tarkowski goes. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Big few days in the transfer window for the futures of a lot of players, a lot of managers, a lot of clubs. And it's amazing that they leave it so late every summer. But here we are again, moving into October, and it's going to be interesting. So at Pro Soccer Talk, head over there. We'll have you covered on everything to do with the transfer window and the closing of that in the coming days.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and always join us every weekend at 7 a.m. on NBCSN for Premier League mornings. Plus, make sure you subscribe to Peacock Premium as well, where you can watch exclusively live 175 games and same-day on-demand replays of all 380 Premier League matches as well.